At an early period in our lives, usually the teenage years, we begin to draw inside the wonderment in observing the outer world. We turn this outer reflection inward to discover who we really are. The comparison could here be made of placing a letter inside an envelope that we wish to mail to ourselves to be received and read at some future date. The problem inherent with individuals in modern society is that when the time comes we receive the letter, we leave it unopened, usually thrown in some heap, never to be read or understood by anyone, including ourselves. Our fascination and excitement once contained and felt in youth is now hidden away, but it is not lost. We arrive at the point where we don't care to know anything about the world or ourselves. However, we still attempt to read and understand the contents of the letter, but now we do so by leering and peeking in through the outside of the sealed envelope, never able to comprehend the full extent of the inner thing. Set forth here before your mind's eye, obviously a crude example of what takes place at the time in human life when the ego is born. Over time, this ego becomes our wave filter, our subjective goggles, our human blind spot. While it is true our egos help us navigate the harsh objective world, sometimes for the better, most times for the worse, depending on the fashioning of its ability. At this period of development in the world, even those embedded in weakened states of being are arriving at understanding the effects societal and familial programming have on the individual. Here upon this word individual, we step into manifold interpretations. And your thought simulations unveil the full meaning of this word down to its very core. What makes an individual? Empowerment of self? Everyday society teaches empowerment of the individual over others, which in turn feeds this ego. So here it is, we differentiate ego from individual or self. This severed path of the soul has created immense communication problems between self and others, most notably self and the world writ large. Where before we observed in wonderment the outside world, so we remain disillusioned by any mention of the true self buried underneath the wreckage. The point can be posited: at what time does the individual take responsibility for their actions instead of jolting the accusatory finger at big bad society? And ascending this mountain of life, if an individual ego continues making weak choices attached to lazy indolence, they will not be allotted more energy, instead remaining stagnant. While those who choose solid pathways, constantly reinventing their ways of interacting with the world, will be doled out ever-increasing amounts, and understanding this is important, especially for future endeavors. The declaration of the will to action. An individual can follow their will wherever they so choose, without thought of reward or consequence, so long as they do not intrude upon the will of others.